Great. So, hi, Nicholas. Good to see you again. So, another quick video serializing our book about crypto in trusts and foundations. And today we're going to look at the Bahamas, aren't we?
Yeah, good morning, Ross. Today is Bahamas, and this is actually your chapter. So you have looked at the legal provisions and also practical aspects that are relevant for trustees and also directors of foundations that they must sort of look at if they want to hold crypto assets. So super topic. I mean, the Bahamas is quite well known as a jurisdiction where a number of crypto exchanges are and were, because there was one infamous crypto exchange which crashed, correct?
Yeah, so Bahamas has always been a bit of a trust jurisdiction, hasn't it? So I think if you look at the Caribbean, you've got like the British Virgin Islands, sort of was your company jurisdiction.
Mhm.
Bermuda was your insurance jurisdiction. Cayman's been your fund jurisdiction. But Bahamas has always been trusts, and if you look under the bonnet of any trust company there, they've got some of them are some very very old trusts. Trusts that are nearly 100 years old and things like that. A lot of aristocratic old money from Europe's still there, that sort of thing. So it's sort of a rich heritage jurisdiction. But yeah, they sort of decided to dive into the crypto sphere, and I think they like many jurisdictions, they were looking for their next business opportunity, business case, their next evolution, and Bahamas really went in on crypto. I think the first success they had was actually attracting OKX.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so FTX sort of followed OKX in, and that was a huge win, attracting these
At
big
that time.
exchanges.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the time, and it's a bit sad for the island really, actually, because they sort of they went all in on this, and there's sort of no criticism for doing that, right? I think many jurisdictions would have wanted these entities, but of course, it turned out that they weren't being run properly, fraudulently even, and that's kind of been a bit a detriment to the jurisdiction. But that being said, you do have very strong legal frameworks. So the Bahamas has written very specific laws to support the traditional structuring industry in supporting the crypto industry. So that's still well and good there. And so I'm kind of a bit of a fan of the Bahamas. Actually, I think actually while the people can be a little bit unresponsive, they're actually quite hardworking and very intelligent,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of good activity that goes on there, and they've got a lot of these creative laws. So I'm sort of looking to see what they're going to do next. But we can talk about a bit about what's in place right now.
Yeah, I think the crypto legislation on the Bahamas has a very funny name. It's called the DARE Act, correct?
Yeah, so I think they sort of getting in like the Americans do, don't they? We were just talking about
Yeah, like the
Doge,
Patriot Act.
the Doge Department and the Patriot Act, and the Doge one being the best one now, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Department of Government Efficiency,
Yeah.
Dogecoin.
So, but yeah, clearly the Bahamas, the Dare Act, I guess they were daring to get involved. But yeah, sort of so, yeah, that came out in, let's have a look at my notes when that was, yeah, 2019 was the first one, the Digital Assets and Registered Exchanges Bill 2019, came into effect in December 2020. So that
Mhm.
was, really, yeah, quite ahead of its time, actually. I think that was quite a long time ago that I think they must have been one of the first jurisdictions to put in place a framework to attract exchanges and to regulate the kind of activity of serving crypto clients.
Yeah. And so how is the term digital asset defined in this DARE Act? Is there anything special or noteworthy?
Yeah, so it's as you'd expect. It's defined quite broadly. It encompasses digital representations of value, or a right to something that operates on a distributed ledger technology. So that's quite a wide definition. I mean, really, what the DARE Act is seeking to regulate is the various aspects of digital assets, including how they're issued, how they're sold and conducted. I mean, really, this legislation is very, very similar to what you see the VASP, the Virtual
Mhm.
Asset Service
Yeah.
Provider laws in the other Caribbean jurisdictions. So really, this was aimed at exchanges. But it can capture other people, such as trustees, perhaps not on purpose, but this was actually aimed at welcoming exchanges to the island.
Mhm. I was intrigued to read in your chapter that the Bahamas also has a central bank digital currency, a CBDC, the Sands dollar. I was actually doing vacation with my family in this summer in the Bahamas, but I never ever encountered the Sands dollar. Well, maybe I was in the wrong place. And is that sort of that is a project which is not only Bahamas focused, correct? So this covers a few Caribbean jurisdictions, I understand.
I think it was meant to be just Bahamas focus. Really, they had a very strong user
Mm.
reason to do it, a user case. The Bahamas is made up of I think over 1,000 different little islands, right?
Yeah.
So the banks can't put ATMs in every little
Mm.
island, and keep them topped up and that. So if the government, let's say it's a government program that was distributing money out. Obviously,
Hmm.
they can just do it via a token that goes straight to your wallet on your mobile phone,
Mm. Oh, that
rather
makes a lot of
than
sense. Yeah. Rather than
yeah.
transfer
So like
cash all these islands, yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. So just absolute user case for it. So they built. I mean, I actually know the gentleman who built it. Actually,
Oh,
a
okay.
young Bahamian guy. So we were like a homemade project. Again, this sort of demonstrates where the Bahamas is quite good, right? They've got some great young people there. As you know,
Mm.
I think the Bahamas at the Olympics, I think they've got the highest medal per like correlating to population. That ratio is the highest there, and you can see that in some of the young people. They've got this sort of that athletic drive and ambition. So yeah, they did build this. I'm not sure how successful it was though. I'm not sure how used it was in the end. So I think it was a success in its sort of vision and execution, but did it really get picked up? I've never seen it when I visited there either, but there you
Okay, okay. So you
go.
also did not see it, yeah. Yeah. So Ross, to tell us something about the custody options that trustees and foundation boards would have. So, is there anything that Bahamian legislation would sort of provide in that respect, or are trustees open to use any kind of custody, like self-custody or using some professional custodian? What are the options in that respect?
Yeah, so it's the same story that we encounter again and again in every jurisdiction. So it does appear, as we've said many times before, that the the risk of self-custody by what we mean if you have a trustee or some other fiduciary who is holding assets for someone else, if
Hmm.
they have it directly on chain, so that they're not holding it via a custodian somehow, it could well be argued that you're falling within the
Mm.
custody professional licensing requirements. So I think it's across the board a sort of big no to trustees and that basically holding things on chain and then just having a couple of people in the office with multi-sig wallets or something like that. I mean, you
Hmm.
can do it that way. I don't think the law intended to capture the people doing that. Actually, I think it was the Dare Act and the VASP law was clearly trying to cover proper big custody institutions. This question might turn on whether you're charging a fee for that service, actually. So maybe if you are a trustee and you're
Hmm.
holding directly on chain, you've got a multi-sig wallet with some procedures around it, but you're not charging for it, then actually it would be outside of that law. But it is something to think about. I mean, I think our advice has always been um, you've got three options, right? You can self-custody, you can hold the assets on one of the centralized exchanges like Coinbase or something, but
Hmm.
our advice has always been to use a professional custodian,
Yeah,
a
the third option. Yeah.
proper custody institution. A, because that also solves a lot of your other problems. It solves like your AML problem, your
Yeah.
cybersecurity problem, your insurance problem, right?
Mm.
But B, also there's no question then that you're falling within the custody licensing requirement potentially.
Yeah. So in essence, no difference to other jurisdictions that we have covered in the book. So the legal and also practical recommendation would be to use a professional custodian. You have a proper contract, and that contains all the relevant provisions like that. There must be insurance in place, and so on and so on. Yeah, okay. Maybe a different topic. So tax is not an issue on the Bahamas. Yeah. So
If you're properly tax resident there, right? Yes, and
yeah, yeah, okay.
they're
Yeah.
quite strict on the economic substance requirements in the Bahamas because that was the one thing they needed to get in control of to get off the
Mm.
OECD grey list.
Yeah, yeah.
So they hammered it, and there was people getting properly fined,
Mm.
which I've not seen in any other jurisdiction, but people were getting fined for, wrong or not current economic substance stuff. So yeah, if you do that properly, which you must do in the Bahamas, then tax free.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So this was a large part of the chapter, or a small part of the chapter, and there was not a lot to say about that.
Yeah.
What about anti-money laundering? Anything special regarding the Bahamas?
Yeah, I mean they have the Proceeds of Crime Act and
Hmm.
Anti-Terrorism Act. So yeah, there's the obligation on fiduciaries to prevent, detect, and disclose money laundering and terrorist financing and suspicious transactions. Again, our recommendation around that's always been to get involved a specialist crypto compliance firm.
Hmm.
There are many of those.
Yeah.
I've just been introduced today to one in the Cayman Islands, so another business that looks very well resourced that's been set up specifically to do
Hmm.
compliance around for crypto services. So I mean, this is almost something I think what you do. You have your sort of standard AML team in-house, but you have on retainer a third-party crypto compliance firm to
Hmm.
use as you need. One thing you need to be a bit aware of as well is it's not just sort of AML and CFT, but of course sanction checking. I think that's
Mm.
quite
Yeah.
a big thing now, actually, with crypto, not just for money coming in, but if you're making payments out, you do need to be checking that you're not transferring something to a wallet that's sanctioned. So, and a lot of entities might not fall within AML laws, but they will fall within sanctions laws. So, even if you're like a trading company or something that ordinarily wouldn't fall within AML, but you're going to need to be doing sanctions checks. So yeah, there's a lot
Yeah.
of third-party firms that can help you with that. So.
Yeah. Super. Um, what else is there? I mean, the Bahamas obviously has sort of is based on English common law. So the whole discussion that has been happening in England and Wales regarding crypto as property. So all of that can be somehow also applied to the Bahamas, correct?
Yeah, absolutely correct. Obviously, it's a common law jurisdiction. It's fairly certain its highest court of appeal is still the Privy Council in
Oh, in
in,
London.
in London.
Okay.
Yeah. So, although that there have been Bahamas cases that the UK follows. So the Bahamas court system is not to be shrugged at, and Bahamas judgments are treated with a lot of respect and guidance.
Hmm.
I mean, you'll hear that from if you ever speak to a sort of arbitration lawyer.
Hmm.
Certain jurisdictions they won't like, but Bahamas is one of them that they're comfortable doing
Hmm.
arbitration under. So it's a well-respected court system, and there are some authoritative cases that English law follows. So
Hmm.
yeah, they will follow the guidance of other cases in the common law world, and as we've been saying, it's a resounding
Hmm.
statement from all the common law jurisdictions that crypto is property capable of being held under trust. So
Hmm.
Bahamas, that's the case. And of course, Bahamas has actually passed specific laws, like the DARE Act, where they've made that clear.
Yeah, yeah. Now this is an interesting jurisdiction, and I think also an important part of the book. I think this concludes our discussion for today. We are on a basically on a kind of tour through the book over the next weeks, one chapter every week or so, and hopefully by the end of the year we will have made a lot of progress, and it will probably take a few more weeks than
Well, it's such an authoritative book, isn't it, Nicholas, with so much content, so it's going to take us a while. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe just two quick other things to say about the Bahamas. One that they are looking to put a DAO Act in place, so that would give
Mhm. Oh yeah,
legal
yeah.
certainty to DAOs. At the minute, people you have to use a legal structure to get
Mhm.
that legal representation. And I think the other thing to say is where the Bahamas is a bit unusual as well, is they do have a lot of banks there. So most Caribbean jurisdictions like Cayman don't actually have a big banking system. I heard there was about 200 banks in the Bahamas,
Wow. Okay.
which
Yeah.
maybe there's lots of small private ones that just have one family and that. So it is a very interesting jurisdiction, I think, and it should be, despite the fact that unfortunately sometimes it's had things that haven't worked and it's damaged its reputation. I think it's still a really good jurisdiction looking at.
Mhm.
Mm.
Super. Well,
Cool.
thank you very much, Ross, and
Yeah.
thank you also to the listeners, and see you all in a short while.
Great. Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Ciao.
Bye.